You know, I know I like to make joke and thing is this whole space is to come here and make joke and get some kicks every week. I hope everybody good. But listen, my goal is not to be calling nobody name wrong. I realize I have a habit of calling the wrong name on this podcast kind of often. So, and I do like the more I call the name wrong is the more often I call it during the podcast. So my apologies to Valmiki Mirage. And the thing about it is, I have the name and thing written down in front of me. It's not like I flying. It's not like I shooting from the hip. I had the name right in front of me. And like a friend of mine texted me one time and she's like, listen. And she typed it out there, it's like Valmiki Mirage. And when I say it, I say, boy, Valkimi? I say, but it's not Valkimi. I trying to figure out why I say, so I go in with Valkimi all the time. So my apologies, Valmiki Mirage, right? Salute it. Welcome to episode 38 of the Corey Shepherd podcast. Happy for everybody who's been listening. Thank you for everybody who's subscribing and sharing the link and all that. I appreciate it. It goes a long way. So let me get right into it, right? I'll picking back up right where I leave off. It's Lent, right? We what we supposed to do during Lent? We still can't talk about soca and thing during Lent. Long time, parents used to get kind of horrors when they playing soca and thing during Lent. The radio used to lock off all soca music and calypso during Lent and thing. What's the situation? We could talk about soca during Lent because congratulations to Farmer Nappy for winning the road march. I'm happy for Nappy. Nappy is one of my favorite calypsonian soca artists of all times. And from the time he dropped that backyard jam, it was sweet. And it's like it was built for him because it was a text-to-voting pandemic, no carnival, no parade bands and them things on the street. And maybe, no disrespect to Farmer at all, but it was probably the best way for him to win a road march because he really don't sing no big set of power songs and things that would have put him in that road march space. Nappy's staying in a groove, which I like. That is my pace these days. So if you think about his songs, right? And the big hits he had over the years. So think about Big People Party. And what was the next one with the rhythm with Nadia Batson, boy? Pack all my clothes in a garbage bag. They have so much of his songs that could have win a road march in a year like this where we don't have a carnival. So congrats to him. I'm very, very happy that he win one. I hope he go on to win many more. Whatever it is he trying to win, he should win. Because Farmer Nappy for a long time going down as a, like I always tell Stacey when we talk about soca stars and they're superstars, and you need plenty artists who in the mix bubbling to make the carnival nice. If only the biggest artists in carnival have big songs, it's not gonna be the nicest carnival. The carnival nice when it has stars. That's certain people when them bubbling the carnival nice. And Farmer Nappy was always in that tier. Anybody who discussing him, not talking about him at superstar level, but if it's the crowns and the accomplishments and things that take him together, I glad for him. I'm glad he got there overall. Now, the next thing that closed off the carnival, nice carnival, last week, carnival Tuesday night, was as a fantasy man. Anybody asked me who are playing mass with, it was fantasy until fantasy closed down and they put me out and know it to play mass. So, last year I ended up in Yuma. I think I played with Yuma now for life. I settling on Yuma. You see that show Yuma put on last week, Tuesday night? Carnival Tuesday? Let me break it down. First, the concept was really unique. Because I think you had to try and figure out how to come different in this pandemic, virtual soca for YouTube, 2-3 people in the audience kind of setting, and having had so many shows that went before them. Remember, Nadia and them put on a great show, Patrice put on a good show, Second Star show was good, Pretty show was real long but it was good, Kess had a week full of show. Who else was doing the virtual shows? Soca Monarch was virtual, they had a ton of them. So Carnival Tuesday night, by that time, I want to put carnival behind me, to be honest. I want to get over my carnival depression. But due to this podcast, I had to keep an eye on what Yuma doing, just in case. And I had no plans to talk about it whatsoever, to be honest. But boy, Yuma put on a show. The concept for the show, if you didn't see it, and it's available on YouTube, right? So go and check it out. The concept for the show was that they were combining, it seemed to be a combination of younger and older artists, or veterans and the youths. And I think, me and the veterans. I want to say old artists, but them fellas and them, that's heroes to me. And these youths bad too, so it's a real good combination. So when the show opened with Nyla Blackman and Drupati, I said, nah boy, this is different. And Drupati singing Iron Man, and Nadia singing Drupati's, Nyla singing Drupati songs. It was not, and it's such a good pairing because like I hate to hear people talk about how they find Nyla voice annoying. I don't like it. I mean, she have a high-pitched voice and thing, but I find Nyla is one of the best in the carnival. And she's different. She give anything a different flavor. She have a good combination of playing like pushing the envelope in terms of innovating and changing the way the music sound. But she also sticking to very, very familiar calypso patterns. And of course, with her grandfather, she's singing that Iron Man song is the grandfather's song, right? Iron Man, Corey sweeter than when he beat Iron, woman does lose the man. So she grounded in it, and you could tell, and she's pushed the envelope just enough. And oh god, it's always nice to see and hear Drupati for the only thing I would say about it is like when you put two artists to perform each other's songs. Now 18 band is A class, 18 band could play music. But I figure part of the issue with the way bands play now is that if you notice when you're in a fete now, bands just play with an Ableton system. They just play the track of the song and the band is play along to the track. So that might be limiting them a little bit. And the reason I say limiting is because from the time I see Nyla and Drupati there together, two of them singing at two whole different keys. So it making both of them songs slightly off key and slightly pitchy at different times during the song, but it's really not their fault. I mean, it's not to say, I mean, Nyla could sing and Drupati could sing. But the thing about it is if they're given Drupati to sing Iron Man, she could sing the whole song. She's not gonna have a problem singing a simple song, but she had to sing it in the key that it was made for Nyla because they played in the original track. So she was singing slight pitchy, but and I don't know how much time they had to rehearse either, but I mean both of them is artists, so they cover for one another, they pull each other through the songs, and it was just a treat to see where they went with it, boy. And then they bring Sherwin Winchester and Second Star. That was a good pairing. In terms of style as artists, again, they come across good, and I mean showing energy unmatched. And that youth Second Star, I mean, again, and next youth who grounded in it because, I mean, that's Merchant's son. Rest in peace to the late, great Dennis Franklin. So they had a good show. Two of them come together and sing their songs, and Second Star level of energy, matching Sherwin level of energy was nice to see. Then Charlene Bailey came on. Charlene Bailey, no, Shadow is, I have plenty favorite artists, but in calypso music overall, Shadow might be one of my favorite artists. Song after, I mean, Shadow have tons of hits and tons of songs too that, like, a lot of people might know, but he had a way he used to put drum and bass together where you have to move. Even if you hear the song for the first time, he was real good at that. And Charlene he embodied his father's spirit, boy. I admire Charlene Bailey a lot because that is not an easy thing to do. Keep in mind that he's an artist of his own right, doing his own songs and them kind of things, but I mean, your father being a great artist and a prolific, you would think that a lot of artists would try to move away from that to come out of their father's shadow. But he find a way to stay in that shadow and still be himself. I find it to be real unique and real authentic. Because when he sing a song like melodies, harmonies, the man who invented music has got to be terrific. The tone of his voice singing that song is very, very different to how Shadow would sing. You have a highish kind of tone. And it's just sweet. And then he sing, of course, Long Ago in Tobago. Think of how Shadow sing that versus how Charlene is singing it in a kind of high octave kind of way, if that is the right word to use. But somehow he's do it, boy. And when you're watching him on stage, it's not like he mimicking Shadow. He just reminiscent of Shadow, and he's deliver on that. So that was just a great piece of it overall. I can't read more notes here. All right, here, boy. Oh, Swappy and Shal. Swappy and Shal energy. Shal is an energetic dude. And that was, again, one of them things where I wish a team was free enough to change key. I think it would have made a big, like, people mightn't pay much attention to that, but if they could have changed key for each artist, it would have made a big difference because some of these songs was a little low for Shal and high for Swappy, but two of them energy make up for all that because they delivering the other one song. And the thing about it with some of them artists that are you realizing is that they could, like, when you hear Shal, you're hearing that they could have do the song themselves. If a writer went to Shal with that song, boom bele boom bele boom beo, Shal might be able to carry that song. The way they performed them songs was really, really good. And one thing I forget to mention too, you see the interviews in between. It was a nice touch to it too. Take some time and go through. I mean, like I say with all the virtual shows, make a lime out of it and get some people by you safely and take in that show, because I really enjoy seeing the interviews in between. Like when you see Nyla talk about Drupati, like you're seeing the admiration she talk about her with. Like, just getting to meet her. And you're seeing the same thing from Drupati as well. Who else there? They had Patrice Destra Nadia. That was real nice too because they do the obsessive whiners. That's one of my favorite calypso. Or soca, I should stop saying calypso like an old man. It's like one of my favorite soca or groovers. But three of them do good to put that song together, and then they did some of their songs. Then they had a next trio with Ricardo Drew Ravi, B and Preedy. Nice. They do a tribute to women. Irfanal's quickly becoming one of my favorite artists. I like something about Irfanal's word. It's hard for me to figure out why I like that youth. Maybe it's just overdue have me liking him so much, but he nice to listen to the way he's delivering his song. And the thing with some of them youths, I was saying the same thing with when I was talking about whose show was that I was talking about last time? Lavway. Them youths have a way they're looking like they're enjoying themselves on stage, boy. You ever notice when you watch College Boy Jesse, watch Irfan taking second star Pretty. It's have times when they're on the stage, they're looking like they're not performing for nobody, they're looking like they're just so joyful to be there and just deliver any song. That was good. The highlight of the night for me, though, you must figure out how to close the show, because when I see the open with Nyla and Drupati, I'm trying to figure out about where all you're going from here, because that was a treat. We would have never seen nothing like that before, and even Drupati was talking about that's the first time she meet Nyla and get to talk to her and interact with her. So I thinking to myself, but all the climax a little bit like me, boy. But they had Iwa and Ding Dong. Listen, now if you know me, Iwa is the greatest soca artist of all time, right? Iwa is the boss, the general. So when I see his Iwa and Ding Dong, and just knowing two of them personality too, I say, oh God. But Ding Dong get on real, but Ding Dong hold his own on all Iwa songs. Ding Dong could sing. Ding Dong is a singer because it's not singing like a big stretch or a big adjustment, or maybe it is that Iwa is not a big singer, so he in a Ding Dong in a comfortable zone. But Ding Dong deliver the man songs, and here now he get take, because Iwa George is a lesson in soca efficiency. Because Iwa George over the years sing the most amount of mashup song and this and that. I want all you to go on YouTube and watch. Don't just watch his Yuma. Watch any Iwa George performance, and watch how much energy Iwa George putting out. He don't do a whole lot, I never see Iwa whining. He just play like he jumping, but he just kind of tiptoeing. Check him out good. When he wave, he don't do that show in Winchester thing where he helicopter all the whole place. Iwa rag him moving too far from on his shoulder. So Iwa's a lesson in efficiency in soca. So somewhere along the line, Ding Dong get take to believe that Iwa putting out a whole bunch of energy to deliver them songs, and Ding Dong starts going on country, mashing up fed. And boy, here na that man rose. From the time he started off, I said, Ding Dong ain't gonna make it. When he started off, I honestly thought, I said, well, maybe they're just doing one song, because the way you start here is a bad. I tell myself he ain't gonna be able to sing his own songs. But he do good and he deliver. And Ding Dong, listen, I'm a new favorite artist. How much favorite artists had in this segment so far? I don't know, but Ding Dong is one. Ding Dong is my favorite guy because Ding Dong just entertaining. When Ding Dong smile and he laugh, Ding Dong say, George, but you're singing good, George. And then he said, George, I mashed me up, I eat some jerk chicken outside. I was greedy. It was nice, but I sure they had to call the medics for Ding Dong when he reached out there, because he went hard, and he went hard on his own songs and things too. But overall, it was a real good performance. And at that point, you were seeing plenty of the crowd, like they were showing you people. That part make me feel sad. Every time they pan to the crowd and I see them people in masks, waving and sitting down and who trying to stay seated, it's a little sad. I ain't gonna lie, them things make me feel sad. I remember this year, and all of us, we can remember this year if we ever have a carnival again. But we can remember this year. But them people really showed them two artists a lot of love on the stage. And in my mind, the show surely done now, because Ding Dong had a big song for the year with the horn in first. Iwa is Iwa. And that is the last road match champion we had on the road was Iwa. So I say, well, all right, well, that is it. We're closing off. But then the men find the very odd choice of putting voice with Ronnie McIntosh. Anyhow you twist that, it's awkward. That is not something, I don't know who come up with it. I would love to know who's the creative director. Well, maybe I can see Goldman tell me who's the creative director, and I will call the person name right. Right? But I don't know how they come up with that idea of putting voice with Ronnie. Maybe there's a connection there that I don't know about. Because the style and the way the men sing, everything so different. But boy, it just worked. Ronnie come out dressed like Voice in his little suit, you know what I mean? His blazer, and you know what I mean? Voice have a style. And Voice come out in the full Ronnie McIntosh, Ronnie McIntosh outfit. Salute my guy Dow Creations. I'm a guy. He's one of the best I ever come across. It look like it's Dow who do voice suit to look just like Ronnie. And they went through and do some of their own versions of the song. I was glad, like, Ronnie give me the line for this little segment too, because the first thing I started studying is if it's Lent and I should go back to Carnival. But Ronnie had a part of the song, he say, some of them entertainers as soon as Lent, they heading up to foreign to represent. But if you catch them in a dance hall or a nightclub, and they ain't singing soca, it's strictly dub. How it gonna look? So how it gonna look if we can't talk about your own carnival drill? I never understand that Lent thing in a way. You can't talk about carnival drill Lent all of a sudden. But they do them songs. They do Ronnie big hits. Voice do his songs. That was overall it was a real nice show. And like I keep saying, I wish that when it was August or whenever they had made this announcement that carnival was cancelled, or even before then when the planning was going into it, I wish there was a way that we could have just bring these things together. Bring these things together. Let us put together a whole package of a carnival and box up the thing nice and make sure that we know what events they have tickets for that you could go and sit down and watch, what you had to watch online, what it is, and market ourselves to the world. But again, I talked about that last week. So again, it was real good. There was a nice little cherry on top with the carnival closing off with that. And last weekend would be last jam and thing. It had no last jam. That is it. Ashes and out. All right, so until Lenten things, I hope I like all the ashes and things. I hope I pray for me too, you know. I'm going to church, pray for me. So this week was an interesting week. Like last week, we were talking about this thing that happened with the police, right? And who falling off a chair and witness disappearing. And one thing about Trinidad being a 9-day wonder, you could plan for the 9 days too, you know. Because the talk get hot and sweaty about what happened with them. And then it started to fade slowly but surely. A lot of other things start to take the forefront. And I just observing, right, that over this week, the police presence was ridiculously strong. Like, I live in San Fernando. If anybody know the roundabout by the fire station down in South, you know, there's a it could be an area for some congestion, right? Because if you go there in an evening and people are heading back through to go back to C3 or head out on Current side or through where you call it again, by the big gas station, I can't remember what that side is, and Royal Road on the next side, and you're trying to head out to Marabella going one way or get back into San Fernando in the next direction, right? Police was on every point on that junction. I think it was last week. It'll be Carnival Tuesday itself, if I'm not mistaken, or Ash Wednesday. All over the place, and they're watching for everything. They're watching to see if you're light, if you're a mask, if you're on your phone. Well, you know me, I paid my $1,000 the other day. I try not to do nothing illegal on the road at all. So when I see them not turning down all my glass, I'm not doing nothing. I don't want no problems. And now they have a few things. Like last week I was talking about Gladwell, right? And I can't remember which Gladwell book I was reading. I wish I could remember, but I really can't. It's just all of them is a mishmash in my brain now. But there was one where he was talking about crime in New York being reduced. And he was talking about this idea of a broken glass theory. Now, that's not his theory, right? That theory has been around for a long time in policing and so on. And it's something that I've subscribed to for a long... Now, the way the broken glass theory works is it says that if an area looks... So in other words, if you go into an area and you see a lot of broken glass and graffiti and stuff like that and looking like decay, it tends to attract more crime. So what if I'm not mistaken, it will be Giuliani. And what they say one of the things that they focused on was cleaning up the dilapidated areas. Get all that spray paint off the train, clean up the place and stuff. And when the place was looking clean, strange enough, crime started to move to different areas. Once it was looking like it's not a crime spot, the crime went away. So I have always, and I mean, not that I'm no criminologist or nothing, right? You know me, may know much. But when I read it, I thought to myself, like, wait, a part of what encourages crime is appearance. And I'm talking about like the physical appearance of the place then. And I started to think, they might be onto something there. They have the empiricals and the data to prove that, right? And it happening, and we see it happen in New York before. But one of the theories I have for crime in Trinidad, you see here, we had to spend a little more time trying to not just clean up the place. That should definitely be one, right? So to make sure that places where, because if I know it in St. James, you know it wherever you grow up and live. Abandoned houses and street corners that not lit and those things is tend to harbor. Like in Jamaica, they used to say Aki Tree is harbor thief. And it's the same thing. If your area looking like that, it's harbor a certain element. So cleaning up is definitely one of them, right? But what I think too is that we have to police the non-criminals in a stricter way. Now, it's only for a time, right? But you see what they're doing now in terms of having more roadblocks, a better presence, getting people ticket like myself who want to talk on their phone, driving on the shoulder, speeding, parking, littering. There's simple things, right? There's nuisance things for the police. But I always have this theory in my mind that if you force us to live in a more disciplined way, it's almost like the same like cleaning up the broken glasses and cleaning the graffiti off the trains in New York. Because number one, if I was a hardened criminal, I do business about society, I'm not going to care if you catch me speeding or not. I ain't speed. I do it on the shoulder, speeding. We see them a lot now. So I think the first thing it will do is cause the hardened criminal, the people who we really want to get out of society, they will stick out like a sore thumb if everybody end up getting more disciplined. But I mean, the thing about it is, my theory is always, people have to take personal responsibility, and it's the only way society will change. But the thing about it is this: personal responsibility cannot be left up to individuals because it will never happen. Number one, everybody's definition of personal responsibility is so different. Everybody's definition of right and wrong is so different. What we need is a societal definition of right or wrong. And I don't want to say force, but enforce the personal responsibility thing by putting laws in place and coming down on people for those things. So for instance, I like to talk about personal responsibility, but me ain't doing the right thing. I want to text and drive, and you know what I mean? When I drive and I find I'm wasting time, so I trying to get real things done. If I had my mic and all them things in the car, I'd be doing a whole podcast driving up the road, save myself some time. But the way they get me to take personal responsibility for that is that $1,000 in January. I can tell you now, when I go in the car, I try and put my phone either in the glove compartment or in the middle thing one time, just so that I'm not tempted to pick it up or it don't buzz. And Apple tried to solve that problem for me by putting a thing that asks me. So when I'm in the car and I drive, even when I get the ticket, when I unlock my phone, the phone is say, "Hey, you slow down, you're driving." And I click, nah, me ain't driving, I a passenger. Waze and all this try to think. They say, "Hey, it seems like if you're driving, don't use your phone." I say, no, passenger. So the way they get me to accept personal responsibility for that is by putting the penalties in place. So my theory is that I'm a theory based on nothing but barbershop talk, right? But I like my theory, so you had to listen to it, right? If we police the people who are law-abiding citizens to get them to take personal, so stop doing the little nuisance things. Stop speeding. Stop driving on the shoulder, the littering, the little petty things, right? So what they did was they increased the fee on that. And now, well, at least it seems, I don't know if it's a distraction tactic, the 9-day wonder thing to get us to forget that the man fall off the chair, or if it's a serious piece of policing going on. Hopefully it's the latter, right? But if they do more of that, the criminal's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So the PH driver, if you come down heavily on the things, so regular, and even that, I don't see no difference between H and PH. Just find ways to regularize P cars, because we all know the issues in certain areas with getting H cars to work the areas. But find a way to regularize it, like some simple things. Like I hear somebody saying, anybody who register for a taxi badge or who doing work for hire should have a GPS in their car. It's really a simple thing. But again, personal responsibility left up to the individual will never happen in the society in the way society wants it and needs it to happen. So if I was a taxi driver, I was putting GPS in my car one time. And as you see women come in my car, I tell them, "Here we're going on to GPS in this car. So you could, I put it on my dashboard. Any one of your family members could click this link and they're going to know which part you is at all times." Well, Trinidad, that mightn't work so well because people have little moves to make and things, but it's your option. So anybody, as a taxi driver, I wouldn't wait on the state to say, hey, you have to do this. But again, not everybody gonna think like that, and not everybody gonna do that. And men go take picker and work and so on. So it's better to go to the areas, you know what I mean? See where the picker thing is a big thing, and go and stand up where it's happening. Stand up on the stand, do undercover work like what they did last week. They said during that police exercise last week, they were particularly looking for drivers who drive in P. And I mean, no, it's against the law, so you should be penalized. But I think we should find a way at this point to make it within the law so that P cars could operate. Because think about this, right? Uber, when it was here, or Drop Taxi, or TT Ride Share, who are missing? They have a bunch of them now. Pink Cab, I think that was one for women only and so on. Those are P cars that working for hire. So it's kind of unfair to have those services operate in the country and benefit. Whereas a man who just have a car, he just can't go on a taxi stand. It's better to forget that H and P. It's not making a difference really. What we had to look at is regularization. So whether you're working for Pink Cab or you're doing a PH work on your way home, especially this country getting hard and no PH go. I told my father say when things get hard, he used to pull bill back in the day, right? In Lavency Road there. So why somebody mustn't have, if you have a car and you could do that as a service, why not? I find we should regularize it. But again, find ways that people come forward so that you tell them, hey, this GPS and so on, that had be in your car. Or in Jamaica, they used to have these, I can't remember the name of the taxi services now, no? But they used to call for taxis there, and they had a whole walkie-talkie type system where the taxi would that's what they used to call the taxi or to communicate with one another. Even things like that, so that less of those issues happen. Like I saw an article in the Express this week with a woman coming out and saying that the same person, I think, was it Balcon was the name? Let me get his name right, I'll stop recording now to put name right. So Balcon was the name. And he, the woman came forward. There's a Denise Ryan article from the Express. She came forward and said that she was raped by him repeatedly for 5 hours. And I mean, check the Express. You'll see this story. It's things like that we had to avoid. So if you posing as a PH driver, you know, the thing about it is like call people forward who doing these, what in the general scheme of things, working a picker for hire is a minor crime. So police those things is what I'm trying to say with that broken glass theory. Police the little things and the big things I feel will start to fade away. If cleaning up a city could work for driving away criminals and increase police presence on people, it would be a big inconvenience to the people who are law abiding, right? But the bigger inconvenience is what we see last week and week before. Another woman talking about a story where the taxi driver, she in the taxi, and the fella in the back. And you know what I mean? She started to realize this thing, and then they go on off route and driving. She had a fight up and thing, and I think they said she fight up and come out the car, and the man come behind her, she stabbed him. That's a bigger inconvenience to me than what happened at the roundabout last week. I mean, better you do them roundabout exercises. Let us as the law-abiding people, quote unquote, better we take some strain and take that inconvenience than we wake up and see them stories that we see from time to time. And I'll tell all it next week if it's based on my days on the road this week, if it's a 9-day wonder distraction thing or if it's a serious thing where they're really trying to increase the level of policing. So gratefully, I ain't get no ticket. Everything was sweet. And but I don't know if I'll tell this story in the podcast before about the first time I got a ticket. But I can't remember, so I'll tell it again. So at the time I in St. James, and I can't remember what, if you know Maturas in St. James, by the car parts place there, opposite Subway on the main road in St. James. Them days I must be driving. While I was driving them time, boy, might be a B12. That was my first car. And boy, I park up my B12 on Subway side to walk across by Maturas to get some part. That car, I'm betting it get trouble, no? Everything could have gone wrong on that car, went wrong with that car. So some little part I must give my little bit of money. I'm going to get the part. When I come back, them days, I wonder if they still do that. They still leave ticket on your windscreen. Because them days, the police used to write up the ticket and put it under your windshield wiper. Remember that? So when I come out of my tourist, I didn't even see the police, you know. And them days, me and him checking to see if it's where you park on your right side or which part you park. I not checking none of them things. So when I come out, I see something on my windscreen. I say it's flyer to go some kind of party or something. is a ticket, boy, $60. No, don't laugh at these $60. That $60 in, that must be early in the 2000s. 2001, 2, 3, some kind of time like that. And boy, I saw a like line, boy, I had to pay this $60 ticket now, but it's not like $1,000 then. It's not like $60 then is $1,000 now. So it's still a little bit of nuisance money, and I had to go in the court and pay this thing. And me and study them. I watched the thing say 14 days to pay that. I marked down the 14 days, and I go and pay it on the 14th day, you know me. And I go on in the court, but that court was done an experience by itself already. Because when I go in the court now, them days you had to line up. Like I think I told you last week when I went and paid the ticket for this week, that $1,000 ticket. It's by TT Post, you're going, you're in and out in no time, you're done. Them days you had to go in, where that was, boy, Magistrate's Court, I think it was, on well, I don't know street names. I know I'm trying to say on for. You know where Magistrate Court is, right down there. And it feel like if I went down in a basement, I feel like I was in a hole. I can't remember right, but I feel like I was down in a hole to pay thing. And when I go on in to pay there, I in a line with people who paying child maintenance, come to collect child maintenance check, who get charged in the court and have to pay fine. So I'm uncomfortable because a woman in the yeah, put him in court, yes, you have to pay money every time. Every one of them trying to, but I say, but why am I here? But anyhow, reach up in front now to pay me $60. The woman say, sir, your date passed. You have to go to court. I say, excuse me, sorry. Well, what did you say? She say your date passed. You have to go. You know, when I get a ticket, the date I watching on it is the date for the summons. They used to say you have 14 days to pay, and if you don't pay it, you come to court on this date to challenge it or something like that, and after that it turned into a summons, or it was a summons to come to court to challenge it or whatsoever, or say why you don't pay, and after that it turns into a warrant for your arrest. I don't know if you remember that. It's different now because this ticket that I got the other day, they had a date on it that said you have to go to court within the first 15 days again, the ticket. And you could go there and challenge the ticket now if you have a problem. But if that date passed, you're automatically accepting that you accept the ticket. And then you go and pay it. So when I was checking for my demerit points all the time, I wasn't seeing nothing. I was seeing 0 all the time. But boy, when that 15-day passed, them demerit points show up fast. So on 3. So back in them days, me know nothing about tickets, so I just checked the date. The boy, the wrong date I have, so I don't miss the thing. So now I had to go to court. And I frightened me playing these games. I work in TSTT and Park Street. So I make sure the morning I tell them I had to go to court, I have a ticket, this, that. And I go into court. And boy, them days I shirt and tie, man. I'm wearing shirt and tie every day going to work anyhow, so I'm well fit for court. And when I sit down in court now, I go on, I buy my pay. Everybody tell me how long is take to get your name called and how they call your name all up the corridor. So somebody tell me be in the court so that they don't call your name all down the things for people to feel you're some kind of criminal. I said, all right, so I went and sit down in the court. Me, no problem. I buy my little papers. Them days the Guardian big. So I sit down in the court, and while the court going on, they call the first man name. I open my papers, boy, a policeman say, close that paper right now. I said, but why you so aggressive? I didn't know. Boy, I kept thinking, another time while thing going on, I cross my leg. The man said, uncross your leg right now. I said, but what is going on? No, I'm taking this thing serious. I kind of frightened. And I can't remember what kind of cases was called. And I think it's only traffic-related matters. But one of the things I observe is that they call the case and call the case and call the case, one after the next. And the response is always constable this, officer that. None of the police not there. None. So they call, I must reach in the court for 9. I never get called till 11 or 11:30, close to lunchtime. And every single case in there, maybe it take 10 minutes to push back the date, because what they used to do is if the policeman don't appear, they push back to the date. So they used to get 3 dates and you had to be in court. You have to be there. If the policeman wasn't there after 3 times, they used to throw the case. So I now started to study, well, wait. Maybe I should hear if the policeman there first before I say anything. But I mean, the thing about me is, you see me, I don't know I was wrong, and worse again are there. So I want to pay my thing and get out of here. So when they call my name now, I come up, I get ball up again for putting my hand in my pocket, but I'm nervous, you know what I mean? But I gone up and they asked me, well, here now, the magistrate the judge or magistrate or whoever he was, take a while to read the thing because the handwriting so ineligible. He can't even read the thing. And when he done read it, all kind of word was wrong and misspelled and them kind of, he looked like he was going to throw it out. And then he asked, well, how do you plead? I said, well, guilty. me going through all that. So he and all looked surprised because the police wasn't there, so it would have put off, but I didn't want to go through all that. So I said, well, I'm guilty. He said, so why you didn't pay the ticket on time? Now I come up with a little story in my mind, right? I say, well, this story goes on reasonably enough. I think the first thing he was thinking was that I didn't have the money. Because he asked me like where I working and where I do and thing. I say, well, I work in TSTT, this, that. He said, no, come on. Why you didn't pay the ticket? I said, well, Your Honor, to tell you the truth, once a man tell you to tell you the truth, he lie. What you had to say to tell you the truth for if you just go and say what happened? So damn judge don't know I go and lie already. So I was like, well, to tell you the truth, I read the ticket and it say 14 days. But in my world where I working in TSTT, it's 14 working days. The court don't open on a weekend. So how it could be 14 days including weekends? So I thought it was 14 working days. So when I calculate the time and I reach downstairs to pay, they tell me I pass my date. So I show up in court and I have no issue. I pay in the ticket. That man look at me so. That man, you know when somebody watching it like he's a damn fool, that man watch me so. He says, sir, you thought it was 14 working days to pay. I say, yes, how it could be regular days, the open weekends, so how you count the weekends and the days? He said, listen, go downstairs now and pay $120 before you spend 14 working days in jail. Well, boy, I start to feel sick. All the time, the thing was, other than that policeman, the policeman was being rougher, but the judge was cool, he mellow as ever, but that man get real serious in that moment, boy. And you know, the thing about this, that judge was a fellow named Sturge. And years after I see that man in here, he used to be in the gym all the time in long circular training. And I used to watch him all the time and like, boy, this man threatened me with jail time. You know, all the thing I played, but then pay the ticket with the $60 is about $5,000 I have in my pockets. I don't know what they go charge me. I don't know what could go wrong. I don't know if I need to work with bail money or getaway car money or what, but I had loud money on me just to make sure that I could walk out that courthouse that day. And Sturge is such a cool guy. I think I was telling my boy Chana in the gym that story one day. And then when I see Sturge walking, I said, Chana, remember the story I was telling you about the thing? I said, Daisy, man. You know, Chana ain't wait a second. Chana went straight to the man and say, hey, do you remember this? Well, when I see in the gym, I'm frightened still. But I see they have an interesting article going around in the papers this week or going around on social media. I don't know if you all saw it. I'll tell you the story. I'm reading from the Guardian. There's an article by Derek Achong. It says, a widow has been given the green light to sue Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith over a decision to discontinue disciplinary action against a police officer whose repeated absence in court led to the man charged with causing her husband's death by dangerous driving being freed. Now, it's an issue because think of my little thing I went through there, which is nothing compared to what this woman is going through. But the police seem to be giving tickets and not showing up in court. Now, I thought that because them things is minor things, nobody ain't studying it, nobody ain't taking it on. So if you give a ticket and you ain't show up in court, well, that is nothing, you know what I mean? It's $60, the judge charged me $120, we call that a day. But it's the same thing we talking about the broken glass theory. Like minor things is roll up and turn into major things. Because if you get any attitude or the habit of not showing up for court because for whatever reason, why a woman like this had to suffer when an incident like that happened, man? It's like you ain't show up to court, the woman lost the case, you want closure for your loved one when they're gone. You can't get that. So I'm very, very happy that whoever the magistrate is in this case, they're able to sue. More, and I wonder if that's one of the things that would change our society too. If we become more like the States and start to sue on a regular basis. But I'm hoping that when we say sue, because this thing was since 2017 this case get dismissed. We're in 2021 now. So I hope pseudo mean in 2035 we're still talking about this case, and if she gets through and thing. If we could get our process fast and, not accept injustice or not accept that kind of lackadaisical thing by people we paying to be there and in place for this very reason. Things happen. But we want to know that we could get justice in a swift and efficient manner. Now, talking about people who in place and who being paid to be there. Let me switch gears a little bit, right? To the international front. Now, salute to my guy QB. That's my partner from back in the day. I talk about him on this podcast all the time. And I going through my week like normal. And something pop up on my phone talking about snow in Texas. So the first man I started studying is my boy Quentstel. I said, but what's going on up there? Because they are not accustomed to snow. Now, I had an experience one time in Miami, right? And this is a joke compared to what they're going through over there. One time I go in Miami. Now, Miami warm. Everybody, if you've been there, you know, there's warm times. And listen, all of you who live in cold places, leave me alone. I'm talking about Trinis here who are accustomed to heat and we're not accustomed to that sort of cold. So I go on up Miami, boy. And I really hear them make announcements about the temperature and me even taking them on because it's Miami. I'm in a polo shirt, I'm in a short pants. I looking to hit Dolphin Mall and them hard. So I go on out. They have a little shuttle that's pick you up when you leave the terminal. They pick you up there. It must be $10 return to Dolphin Mall. I ain't paying no yellow cab, no $20 and $30 to go out there. So I'm a $10 thing and I'm waiting for the thing. Here now, I feel a kind of coldness sitting down on that bench out there. All my paws raised, I started to tremble. I said, but what is this? Not realizing that was the year that they had a whole, I don't know if what you call it, a cold front or weather change or whatever it is in Miami at the time and making the place cold. So I really see the thing about Texas, and I thought there was another story like that where it's just a warm place that started to feel a little cold until I started to hear a story now about people dying. People in their cars, carbon monoxide poisoning. I hear about house collapsing because apparently the state is a hot state. So the house is not built with much insulation, obviously. Built is more designed for air conditioning than heat. And then people's roof not built in a way where it could take the weight of the snow. So they're saying houses, the roof caving in on people going in their car to get heat from carbon monoxide. Because even if you had heating in your house, which a lot of people didn't have, you turn up the air conditioner as much as you could to the highest temperature you could find it could get to. But then electricity start going in different areas because they're saying that, well, of course, you have an overload now, people who are trying to get heat. And then Texas apparently on its own on its own grid, so it's not like they could share with anybody else and get additional power. So current starts to go, man cold, man freezing in the house. I see a next one come up with a dude, they say an old fella, he died in his recliner. And when they show you that man's ceiling fan, his icicles coming off the ceiling fan, I say, but wait, this thing worse than I thought. So I had to check in on my boy Quentstel real quick to make sure he good, man. You know what I mean? Congrats to him, man, making babies in these streets and had to deal with this. But thankfully, he was good. I have a cousin over there as well. I checking, so I'm sure Texas, funny enough, is one of them places where we have some Trinis over there. I wonder where's the connection now? The oil and thing on. New York, Miami, them places we have Trinis and thing. I wonder why it's caused people to go to Texas. But anyway, there's some family over there. And so prayers going out to everybody who over there. I hope we all keeping safe. We warm people, no matter how long we're living out there. We men like a little warmth, yes. So try and stay good. I hope everything work out. I hope things change. And by the time I'm recording this, it seems as though people getting the help that they need and the electricity situation getting better. I hope that's the case, and I hope everybody good. But in the midst of it, I saw Ted Cruz trying to get out and head to Cancun. Now the thing about it is this, right? We had to watch it. Me and politicians. This is why I can't take about politicians. Because number one, he was one of the men who talks so much about climate change and real and that is old talk and thing. But so something happening now, the man looking to head down the road. No, you stay there for. And the funny thing is this. If he stay there, he can't do nothing. He can't help. What are you going to do? All you're going to do is talk. You're a politician, right? And what are you going to do? Mobilize and thing? All right, maybe. And if it cold home by me and my house in built for coal, Cancun it is. Sorry to lay it down, but I gone. But that's the thing about politics. a lot of it is the optics. A lot of it is the optics because you had to know to yourself when you go in the airport and head inside, you had to know to yourself that this not right. It don't feel right. So is it all right? But let me put the parallel like this. If we suffering home by me here, and I find a way, I say, you know what? I just ain't going home now. It's cold there. I up in St. James, Shoguna's cold. I say, Stacey, here we're going to have the road, you know. Okay, I mean, it makes sense. I come down and that might be true because I can't come down. What I go do? I can't really do anything. But the reality is that I rather come home and cold and dead with my family than I stay somewhere warm and know them suffering. But there's the thing about politicians. They talk to us like we's family. They come and they hug we up and kiss we child and all these things. But them fellas not on way. Them fellas not on me. So the man come back and the man looking sad. All the paparazzi in place now to take pictures of the man looking sad coming back home in this school. But the man who take the cake is a fella from Colorado City. Is the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT. He's the general. A man named Tim Boyd. I'd read for you what Tim Boyd say, because I could not believe this. And it sums up, I know there's American politics, but it sums up in a lot of ways how politicians feel about their subjects, right? So we call themselves subjects. He said, let me hurt some feelings while I have a minute. Now, all right. If people going through a crisis, you imagine you going through a crisis in the midst of a crisis. Your state freezing in the midst of a pandemic. And your opening line as mayor of one of these cities in that state is, let me hurt some feelings while I have a minute. All right, boss. If you feel that's the best way to open that's cool. He says, no one owes you or your family anything. Nor is it the local government's responsibility to support you during trying times like this. Sink or swim, it's your choice. Now, this is a lot of typing. A lot of letters were typed out there. I'm wondering if at no point he started to feel like, maybe I shouldn't put this out. Sometimes you text somebody, text you something, and you text them. You start to type, but you delete it. If this is what he put out, I want to see what he delete. He went on to say the city and country, along with power providers or any other service, owes you nothing, in capital nothing. I'm sick and tired of people looking for a damn handout. If you don't have electricity, you step up and come up with a game plan to keep your family warm and safe. If you have no water, you deal with... What? If you have no water, you deal without. Oh, there's no Maslow hierarchy. Water. If you have no water, you deal without. And think outside the box to survive and supply water to your family. That's right. If you are sitting at home in the cold because you have no power and you're sitting there waiting for someone to rescue you because you're lazy, is that a direct result of your raising? The grammar and thing and spelling so good, no? Is a direct result of so in other words, all in Texas, QB, tell your neighbors and them all lazy. All the fellas that know water, you're supposed to figure out how to get water. Improvise, innovate. The man say figure it out. He went on to say, folks, God has given us the tools to support ourselves in times like this. This is sadly a product of a socialist government where they feed people to believe that the few capital will work, and others will become dependent for handouts. Am I sorry that you have been dealing without electricity and water? Yes. Are you? Look at what part of the statement this man put this now. But I'll be damned if I'm going to provide anyone that is capable of doing it themselves. We have lost sight of those in need and those that take advantage of the system and mesh them into one group. Bottom line, quit crying and looking for a handout. Get off your ass and take care of your own family. That's right. Now, the nice thing about these fellas, guys, is they genuinely believe that when they put out things like this and they get backlash and they delete it, they're good to go. Them fellas telling themselves, all right, I delete it so I ain't clear. I don't understand. Like, why? What in your mind would I think any part of this is a good statement to make? Man say nothing in capitals. So it's reminiscent of sometimes the way I find politicians, and this is US politics have this get up and get attitude. Republican or Democrat, they all preach this kind of narrative as though pull yourself up. Anybody who think they're lazy, they don't consider how people get there, where's people history, how people have been disenfranchised, that all of us have different starting points. Some of us are extremely privileged because of the color of our skin, the areas that we live in, the amounts of inheritance that we had off the back of slaves. Them don't care about none of that. All they're saying is, hey, water gone, fetch a bucket. Is that no standpipe in Texas? But the standpipe frozen too? You know, blow dryer, standpipe and get some water up in you. Them don't, they just, in their mind, figures out. Because people like Tim Boyd, in my opinion, is a lot of hubris. When he think about, I think there was an episode I was talking to Joel Julian on the homeschool situation or the online schooling. And one of the things we were talking about is that politicians who are making decisions on behalf of people who stay in home with children might be genuinely making decisions as if all homes look like their home. As Joel was saying, where every one of them have a comfortable space to sit down and each one have their own computer and is, you know what I mean, air conditioned and nice. They think that everybody's like them. So when with the privilege that he has or the access that he have or the networks or the know-how or the history, he genuinely might be writing this thinking everybody else could do this. If I could figure out how to get water because of my connects, you should probably make some connects and get your water too. It's an odd thing, but when you look at our local politicians, I don't find it much different. I really don't. Like over week after week, I always talk a little bit about politics in this, right? And of course, prayers to everybody in Texas. I hope everybody's safe and everybody good. And I mean, find a way to take care of one another. Forget my boy Ted Cruz. Let that man go Cancun and enjoy himself. And most of all, forget Tim Boyd. We had to help one another in times of crisis. Nothing wrong with asking for help. And nothing wrong with stretching our hand to help people. The people in a crisis in the midst of a crisis. So forget them fellas. But going to our local politics now. The same kind of things happen here. Where when I look at the situation in Tobago, we in a crisis in the midst of a crisis. You go on to the polls, the thing hang. Nobody can compromise. We don't trust one another. They expect us to trust them. But them don't trust one another to put somebody in place to say, well, all right, you go in, you appoint somebody as the head of the CHA, dissolve it and go back to election. Or let us make an agreement here now that we're moving past the 12 situation where it could get hung 6-6. Let's move to something where we have an odd number. It's such a unique concept to have an odd number in something where people competing. You know, such a unique concept. You've never been there before. So it's like the same situation. Nobody don't trust one another. And it seems as though it's like the combination of Tim Boyd and Ted Cruz we have down here. Where men preaching to you about what you should do and don't do while they're on the way to Cancun. You'll find so. Like I was saying last week, like the more I think about that situation where between Stuart Young and Gary Griffith, something happened between them that I ain't understand with the dynamics. At some point you go find out, right? But that statement Stuart Young made last week about having this meeting with Gary Griffith and them to find out what has happened at the police station and what's going on as a Minister of National Security. But opening the statement by saying, if people have video evidence of what happened, come forward. Something awkward about that. So I want to keep that at the forefront so we could continue to discuss it as the weeks go on. Let's see where that goes, because something about that story we don't know. Because if the article was written based on I think it was Sam Dennis Ren who wrote the article based on a video that they said was received by the Trinidad Express. And if that article was enough for you to call a meeting with Gary Griffith, it means that you're asking questions about a video that may or may not exist. Why not get your hands on the video first and then have the meeting? Or why would the Express not provide Gary Griffith or Stuart Young or anybody with the video if they ask for it? But I just want to make sure that we keep that at the forefront as we go along, because something about that story ain't right. Now let's talk a little sports. A little panic, right? It's a short thing about sports. I don't know why people be so upset when they talk about sports here. It's the strangest thing I've seen. But my Soca Warriors, the best team in the world, my favorite side, my squad, we in a little bit of a situation here. We now get a quick 7. More than a handful from the States. And we're going into this with we're going into a World Cup qualifier now with this being the last game that we play. I'm a little worried. So we have something scheduled in March to play Guyana. Now, it's been a while since Trinidad. We ain't just losing it. It's been a while since we score goals. We ain't play much matches, of course, because of COVID and all them things. But even before that, it's a 2-0, a 1-0, a 3-0. We ain't even scoring goals at all. So I'm glad to see that Terry Fenwick and them start posting pictures on, I think it was TTFF Instagram page. And the whole squad is together. It looking like we have Molino there. I'm pretty sure I saw Molino. And I was looking out to see if Jovan Jones was with the team, but I really didn't notice him in any of the pictures. And I just hoping that we are at the point where we have a full squad and men who could represent and Jovan Jones, Molino, and Alvin Jones in particular, because them is the last set of players who was really scoring, Molino more so than anybody else. And they seem to be together. And I'm hoping for the best. But the story not coming from the fact that we have that qualifier, the story coming from like something strange I see being spoken about in the papers. Like I see an article by Walter Allaby, and they're talking about Trinidad and Tobago losing or giving up a home game and giving up home field advantage to play in Dominican Republic. With Guyana we playing, right? So it's supposed to be a Trinidad and Tobago home game or a Warriors home game, but we're playing it in Dom Rep. Now, I'm not sure if Alabi and everybody else who in an uproar about this, I'm not sure if they know it have COVID. Maybe somebody should tell them, like, COVID is a thing. As much as I talk against it and thing, the borders closed, and I see WHO giving us big props for being like number 4 or 5 in the world in terms of the management of COVID. Like sometimes I wake up and feel like to bad talk the administration about having the borders closed, and I feel like it killing businesses and stifling industries like the bars and the entertainment, and like you might have heard me talk about it a few times, like my take on it and how do we manage the business side of it. I be depressed when I go to places like South Park and the place empty. I don't like to see businesses looking like they're suffering. It's not a good sign for our country at all. Especially when the economy looking like our own looking. We oil and gas done, that finish, it have no more. We run out of gas and the price too low. So we dependent on industries, and then a big foreign exchange, like Carnival get postponed, that's dead money that gone. And I see the boss and them meeting this week with Wassa. They have this big room meeting they put in the papers now where it's one huge hall and it's 10 people, I guess, distancing and all that. But this is like literally on Monday this week where they're meeting with Wassa. They're meeting about Wassa. That is not going to be good, folks? Let me be real with yourself. Big changes are going to come to Wassa, and big changes are going to come to the public sector. You're seeing all the economists talking about it, and they're letting it be known fully that we have to reduce public sector spending. Recurring public sector spending is going to lead to recurring debt that we can't come out of because we don't have no industry. And we don't have any oil and gas industry again to depend on and bring in forex or bring in money or, tax dollars that would offset some of these inefficient industries. The public sector had to look a little more like Iowa than like Ding Dong, right? But going back to the football, I don't know if the journalists and the supporters and everybody know that COVID-19 is a thing, the borders closed is an issue. The sports minister or the ministers and them come and say you could get a little sweat, 11 aside. Salute to my guys down in Central here. We take a little sweat every now and again, like we wasn't waiting for nothing, no kind of ruling on that because we've been sweating. Well, no, I say personal responsibility, right? We have not been sweating. I was not sweating. But they're saying sweat could go on, and I guess he used the number 22, so 22 people could play. That is 11 aside. But he also kind of, he was saying no leagues and none of them things starting back yet. So I'm not sure where that message about the teams start to get into a talk about why we giving up home field advantage is the real odd boy. Because number one, 11 versus 11 is not a football side. I'm not sure what the people who talking about is talking about. Last time I checked, a man like me who play football and warm bench for most of my football life. You couldn't warm no bench like me. I benching since Newtown boys. So I don't know how I could only walk with 11 people. If it only had 11 people on a football side, I would not ever have played football in my life. All my life I played from the bench. If I guess, no more place I went. and sit down on the bench the whole game. It's one of the saddest things you ever experienced in youth. You just sitting down on the bench, you're praying somebody call you. And nobody's even looking. The coach and him trying to make eye contact with you. I'm talking about Newton, Fatima, Harvard's, all about bench, heavy bench. So 11 versus 11 is not a football side. I don't know if they forget the coach had to be there, technical team, fitness people, doctor. I don't know, boy. So that could have never make sense that we could have had a local game if we had done this 11v11 thing. And then on top of that, I'm trying to figure out what we're missing by not playing here. Because the surface, FIFA have some rules about how the surface could be. No doubt about it, if you're playing on your home ground, there's a little bit of an advantage in terms of knowing the surface. Like we play, hypothetically, we play football in Central here, and the ground bad. The ground has some bad bounce something. And when our side come to play against we, they go be at a little bit of a disadvantage. Because you're expecting the ball to roll, that ball almost never rolling. So maybe that's part of it, but professional footballers playing on a professional pitch should be able to play anywhere. And it's no crowd. There's not going to be anybody in the stands. I mean, and I don't know what home field advantage Soccer Warriors could. Any home field advantage we have is really if we playing in front of empty stadium. Because like I'd say about the cricket the other day, our footballers know what it is to play in front of empty stadium much more than any other country in the world. Nobody don't go and watch no football. You see, this round of qualifying we playing here before we start to reach a group stage. Where's that home and away thing? Listen, nobody don't go them games. No eyes be in the stadium for them games. And you can hear every word the coach saying. Is the closest insight I ever get to coaching is when you go and watch the early round football. So I'm not sure what home field, even if we had no COVID, even if the minister had come and say everybody could watch sports, everybody could play sports, nobody wasn't going in that stadium to watch Trinidad play Guyana after losing 7-0 to the USA. We are fair weather people that we only support that Soccer Warriors team when we close to qualify. Let me tell you what happened to me. When we qualified for the World Cup the last time, I was going to games from the early rounds when the place empty. you could hear everything the two coaches saying. You hear any talk from the field. That's how it was. And little by little, the campaign wasn't going. It wasn't going 100% great. We had some points on the board and thing, but I think eventually we had lost away to, hey boy, I can't remember now. I think it was Guatemala. I think it was 5-1. It was a big loss. And they eventually fired Bertil Sinclair and they brought in Ben Hacker. And then Ben Hacker come and win some games and we went and played Bahrain and that kind of thing. Remember that? I went from that point of supporting that team when we barely get into the hex that year. And we play some decent football. We had some point. Ben Hacker come in and meet not a terrible situation. He had something to build on for us to be able to qualify. And listen, by the time we reached down to the end with our home game with Bahrain, I could not get a ticket to go in that stadium. That's who we are as fans. That's who we are as people. The regular man who trying to get there and supporting the team throughout, you cannot get a ticket. I remember going in the stadium and you had to fight up to get. They used to sell tickets close to the on the Jean Pierre complex side, had a little ticket booth. So you remember that? And here in a crowd, if you see people inside, they're trying to buy tickets and things, and it's just how it's go. So I'm not sure what Alabi and them or any of the people who talking about it, like what y'all were talking about, like what we miss out on by playing somewhere else. If anything, when we play somewhere else, is to our advantage because we are nobody watching the game. Is what is the conditions under which our players might be most comfortable. So anyway, as much as I'm against Terry Fenwick being the coach of Trinidad, I thought he should have been deported after elbowing down a man in a pro league game. He's the coach. This is we side. And there's nothing you could do to get me to stop backing Warriors. So I'm watching at least. I like how they're doing plenty on Instagram and you could see some of the things that happening. I wish there were more, in this virtual space maybe. I don't know if that might make sense at all, but if they could show us more of the team. But I guess showing us more of the team is showing Guyana more of the team too. So, but best wishes to the Warriors. We have some weeks to prepare for this. I hope we could go into this. I don't want to be in a situation again where we lost into Guyana. And I salute my whole Guyanese family. Everybody in Guyana. But always to lose. I can't take this thing with Guyana beating me and thing, you know what I mean? Let me just get this thing together And if this is we home game, if wherever it playing, let's go and win that home game big. I want Trinidad and Tobago to be heading towards the Hex because I have my eye on a World Cup coming up in Mexico, USA, and Canada. I don't know if anybody paying attention to that, but when them three countries, not so much Canada, but when Mexico and USA out of the qualifying spots for the World Cup, I hope we have a team that good enough where, I mean, all we got to be playing is Costa Rica will be the big side in the group because Mexico and USA out. And then you have Guatemala, Panama. You know, I hope not just Trinidad, but the other Caribbean countries. I hope Trinidad and Jamaica could win out that group, and Guyana, whoever fighting for the top spot at that time, win out that group. And you can imagine a World Cup where we have 3.5 Caribbean teams or 4 Caribbean teams up in that. Boy, it's going to be fair time. And I definitely, if that is the case, I'm going in the States, I'm going to all them games. Wherever them games, whether we in Mexico, the US or Canada, and I'm traveling to all the games. So I just hoping that we use this World Cup to build on that. So I really want us to go out there and please don't lose the Guyana now for me. Just beat Guyana and let me keep this simple, right? Now, as I mentioned, Bertil Sinclair, be sure to check out the Birdie and Barney podcast. Them fellas have an interview coming up with Bertil Sinclair. It's going to be released Wednesday. What Wednesday is it? 24th of February. It was one of the more interesting interviews I listened to, like hearing Bertil Sinclair talk about his life in football and his contribution to local football being, and I didn't know this, being the most accomplished coach in Trinidad and Tobago football. And here his thoughts on losing his job and Ben Hacker taking over. And listen, it's a real interesting interview. So check that out. That's available on Apple Podcasts, Google. They put it up on YouTube. Of course, it's on Wired 868, Lasana Lieberd's website. Check it out. It's a real interesting interview. Now, I see something in the Express this week to that warm, cold heart. 19th of February, Express, written by Ricky Ramdas. I don't know if all you go remember this, but there was a time that a video had come out and started circulating. They saying it was in 2015. So throw your mind back, right? And the video was showing you, it looked like a daycare or something with a big fat fella and a woman beating a child. Like he was feeding the child the bottle and the child didn't want. And listen, that man was hitting that little child some hard slap. I don't you remember that? That was one of them moments where everybody was in uproar. And the guy got arrested and thing because somebody who was working at the place had planted a camera. And that's how you get to see everything that happened. Well, I was glad to see that he gets some prison time. 20 months in jail. I don't know if it's enough or whatever, but at least he in jail got to take 5 years, 6 years if it's 2015. The part about it I don't like is that they say something about the wife not having to serve any more time because her time already served. I suppose if it's 5 years. They're saying Gobin was the guy name, and he spent 5 months in prison before being able to access 150,000 bail. And after that, he going back to jail now to serve out the rest of his time. So that's good. I'm glad to see the wheels of justice. They're turning slow like hell, but they're turning, and I'm glad this story came back up where we could see this fella. And I don't know how he's so healthy. This man's getting fatter. The way he eats, it's like he eats and he stops up and he started eating. No, this man get real fat. I don't know if he was locked up or if he was free, but I'm glad. 20 months is 20 months. That is less time, and I hope go in there and learn your lesson and come back as a reformed person. There's something wrong with you. Seek the help that you need. Where you feel like you could be beating children, any children, but worse again, children who you're paying to go there for this person to do that. And I don't know who this woman is, what kind of woman she will really make. But the thing about it is like, it's so similar to what Gary talking about. So with Gary and he falling off of the chair. So I want to laugh, but it's funny. Because in the middle of the article, they're talking about how the prison officers and them, they feed him real milk and beat him. So they're feeding him milk in a bottle. They're recreating the scene that they see on social media is what the article said. They're feeding him milk in a bottle and hitting him some bellas to drink the milk. But like he drink all boy, because that man get fat. He get fatter up in the prison. So, I mean, even things like that, as funny as I'm laughing at it, but them things that we had to eliminate because we have a tendency to excuse, me personally, we have a tendency to excuse them things when it's situations like that, where I saying, they should beat him in jail and feed him up with milk and them kind of things. But I guess we had to get rid of that attitude as a whole if we want to see things like this or things like falling off a chair not happen, because anytime you have a case and the two main suspects dead, it make him wonder what happened. Who being protected, like I was saying last week. So my boy Gobin is locked up. That is the right place for you. You should spend some time there. I hope you come out and you're reformed and you're a brand new man. Now, before I go, we had to say salute, and rest in peace to Granny Luces. Legendary as part of our culture, our sporting culture and our culture as a nation. Everybody, if you're around my age, you know Granny Luces from running marathons since back then. They say she started in 1984. You know, she said she wasn't. I didn't even know that until I read it after her passing, where she started at a late age. She didn't start. I always assume as a woman who running marathons from since she was young till now, but she started at a late age. And you know, the thing about legendary status is that they say she had a big 90th birthday. She had 10 children. I know, and Granny children, and 33 grandchildren. But they said they had a big bram for her 90th birthday. And she was saying that she was just focused on running. You know, she wasn't trying to be famous or trying to be popular or anything like that. She just keeps saying, listen, I like to run, you know, I love it. And if they call me for a race, I go in, I want to be in it. She like how she feel when she run and everything. And it was not about the fame or, you know, the accomplishments or the accolades. She just wanted to run. And there was a time when the marathon, I guess, well, maybe TV and the internet changed a lot, but the marathon used to be a little bit like the parade. Not exactly like that, but like people would line the streets of the marathon route just to cheer on the runners. Like you see it in marathons abroad. And I don't know if a lot of that happens still with marathons here or big marathon. But it does something that will stick out to me or stick out in my memory, where you would go to watch the race wherever it passed and you clap all the runners and stuff. But people used to wait to see if they could catch a glimpse of Granny Luces coming down the road. And it was a joke too, you know, when you see her running and Granny done pass already. Whoever coming behind Granny Luces, everybody telling you, hey, Granny gone, and they like, don't let Granny beat you, you know. Or when you see the leaders pass and you see men running, they say, hey, don't let Granny catch you, you know. So when Granny, and she used to run, and some people might remember her, where she would be older. She ran up to her mid-80s, they said. And at that time, she just running to finish. As a matter of fact, the way she looked, she was so focused. She always used to be running to finish. She wasn't studying nobody, you know? Because I'd never see her, strange enough, when people were cheering and those things. I never see her running and waving at people and acknowledging people. I never saw it. She just used to stay focused, keep her head straight and run. But there was a time where I'm not sure if she was ever competitive, like winning the race, but she was beating people. She was passing people and things. And boy, it was a big thing. Granny pass here. So salute to her and rest in peace, Pastor. We had 98 years old, an absolute legend in our culture. And the name now of the race is renamed that, well, for a long time now, the Granny Luces Classic. So her name will live on. And I hope we let her name live on in his stories as well, so that people who now born, they know the name and they know who she is, and they know when we say Granny Luces and we make joke what it is we mean and how much she meant to us as a people and as a culture. And you know, Calypso or stories are told. So I'll leave all with this Calypso about Granny Luces. This is by De Alberto and Granny Luces. I want to know how much people only message me and tell me how much people remember this song, because if you remember this song, you're properly old too, you know. So take in this one.
sister. Cause afraid granny pass me on the highway. Afraid granny, I ain't ashamed to say granny. Afraid granny pass me on the highway. Granny Luces, Granny Luces, Granny Luces is the best. Granny who? Granny Lou, Granny Luces is the best. I said.
Yeah, anytime I catch you tapping your foot, you're good old, you know. You and Granny Luces same age. But that was a big song. I mean, that's not something we grew up singing. The man say he ain't wanted to register again. I ain't game wrong. Now, so rest in peace to Granny Luces, of course. I mean, her family is a big family. I didn't know it was so much a family neither, but legends. Part of who we are. Now, before I leave all you, I know I said that about 3 times before, but before I leave all you, let me talk about this vaccine situation now. I wanna get feedback from people as to what's the take on the vaccine, because I know there are some people who anti-vaccine. They also have some people who still believe, and I mean, you hear them say it all the time that COVID is a flu. Everybody will get it at some point in time. As Buju say, who dead and who live. You know what I mean? That's a lot of people who still. At one point, I was thinking something like that too. You know, I was thinking, listen, we can't escape getting this thing, but as much as I like to, as I was saying, I like to knock rollers and then body borders closed. But the more you talk to people who are abroad, I living in a false sense of reality. I'm not living in the reality that this virus is and what it really causing to people across the world, because we never saw that and got to that level of death tolls and overrun hospitals and overburdened, where you see places like Barbados going into strict lockdowns again, places like England coming. I think they're still in a lockdown, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I'm grateful that I have the luxury of being so naive, if I could put it that way. But the vaccination situation is one where I think I need help understanding it, because we have 100,000 vaccines in the country now. The goal, as they said, is to vaccinate 1 million people by the end of the year. It sounds like a real good goal to me. And I'm thinking that if we get vaccinated, we could go back to some form of normalcy where business and family life and just liming and everything, church, wherever you're interested in and getting together as people is concerned. I hope they will open back the school though. Let me do that from home, right? But other than that, we could get back to some kind of normalcy. So the people who are so concerned about vaccines, like you're seeing people talking about how rushed the vaccines were, and I could see why they might want to rush the vaccine at this point in time. I also find, like, you know, we're talking about this with a finality and like almost like, okay, so vaccines were rushed. It takes 2 years generally to develop a vaccine. We're almost talking like 2 years will never pass. One thing I learned is regardless of what you do, time has passed anyway, you know. So even if the version of the vaccine now is not the best or final version of what it will be, how come we get so expert level that we know is not it ain't good and people will die and everybody, you know what I mean? It's such a awkward argument. So the virus itself is nothing and it will pass and everybody will get it and thing, but the vaccine is this huge. How come the vaccine is not nothing too? And what I don't understand is the polarizing nature, I suppose. Like, why people who want to get a vaccine so vexed when people who don't want to get it saying they don't want to get it? Where's the belief that they will transmit it when you don't get the vaccine already? And then on the flip side of it, even worse, where if you don't want the vaccine, why are you so bothered by other people taking the vaccine? It's just one of them issues where it's an odd one for me. I don't understand it. And I also remember, like, leaving Newtown Boys and walking down to the Woodbrook Health Center on Trackgate Road there to get vaccines. What feel like often to me, you just had to walk down the road. You used to walk down the road and get a vaccine, and you had an immunization card. And when you're registering for a school, you had to present your immunization card to show all these shots that you would have gotten before. So I'm starting to feel like it's a private school trend who have this problem with the vaccine, you know, because I don't know if any private school you could go without the vaccine and thing. And then I also remember like as an adult the other day going to Guyana, and it basically said, hey, you had to get shot for whatever the thing was. I went by Dr. White. I said, Dr. White, I had to go Guyana. He said, right, you need so. I said, all right, bust me up. You know what I mean? Do your thing. And I just never thought twice about it. And I guess the whole idea of anti-vaxxers and stuff is a real thing. And even long before COVID, there were people who saying that the vaccine so closely tied to autism and things like this. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. And I think a lot of us need to start admitting that we don't know enough about it and let the experts. Yes, but again, a lack of trust in the experts or the systems could always lead us down this road. But one of the things I learned is that you see Google and trying to find out information, and even more so things like Facebook and Instagram. The way these algorithms work is they show you more of what they assume you want to see. YouTube and all that too. So if I go and look up football videos on YouTube, I go and see a lot of football videos suggested to me. It starts to assume that is what I want to see. Try it on YouTube yourself, right? Like, go on YouTube and look for a topic that you're not interested in. Like, this is not your favorite area of thing. Like how to make candles. Go up and look for something like that. And search for that a few times well. Eventually, if you keep doing that and you keep looking at more videos like that, all you will see is how to make candles and things that are related to that. So it might not be the best place to look for alternate sources of information, is what I'm saying. So if you are real pro-vaccine, keep in mind that everything, it doesn't matter what it is, everything have an upside and a downside. It could be what? So when you go online to look for more information, the information that you look for, although you making an effort to be objective, you're probably going to see more things that reinforce your idea. And keep this in mind too, right? The person who you're so upset with on the next side that is anti-vaccine, they have the same exact experience. When they're looking for information, they are going to see more things that say you shouldn't take the vaccine. That neither one makes any side right or wrong, or more right or more wrong. So this back and forth, they're saying like, if you want to get like real likes, maybe I should do that. I'm gonna put the word vaccine in the description of this episode. See if we can get these things to take off. Because it's one of the most polarizing discussions now. Even the little situation we had here with Barbados giving us 100,000 vaccines, and the boss know it was a gift, but the Minister of Health didn't know it was a gift, and he say, you know what I mean, they had to give us because it was for the whole Caribbean, and the whole thing gets so politicized. So everybody trying to look good because they get vaccines here and stuff. But on an individual level, just keep in mind that person who you're so opposed to, they seeing a lot of information that supports their opinion. Just like if you look for candles. So I came across a website this week, and I'm going to try it myself, right? So I'm not making a recommendation on this yet, but there's a site called DuckDuckGo. So I don't know if anybody paying attention to that. It's real new to me. So if this is real old news, or they just skip past it, but it is real interesting for me to see, because whereas Google results are curated, they're trying to show you what is best, what they assume you would want to see, which the biggest assumption is that you want to see more of the same that you wanted to see before. Apparently, DuckDuckGo gives you an unfiltered set of results. So there's the thing, right? If you're real anti-vaccine and you're looking for a different, I know they have people who set in the ways and they make care always the next side, right? But if you're like me and you like learning about what happened on the next side of the fence, go to DuckDuckGo. Duck as in curry duck, right? DuckDuckGo. And maybe look for information. If you're a pro-vaccine person, look for anti-vaccine type information and anti-vaccine sentiment and see what you get there. And if you're real anti-vaccine, go and look for things that in support of the vaccine. It seems as though that site will give you more, I don't want to say clean information, but more unfiltered, uncurated information, so that you could see what actually happening out there without having to look through the eyes of a Zuckerberg or a Google that seem to want to maybe inadvertently cause us to be divided by making us more entrenched in the ideas that we already have. That makes sense? So check out DuckDuckGo. I'm going to check it out this week too. And when we come back together next week, we could kind of see what makes sense and when it makes sense, and if we could soften our positions, you know what I mean, on this thing. Because the vaccine here, healthcare workers taking it already. The goal is to get 1 million people vaccinated by the end of the year. But everybody still had to make their own decision, because vaccines for now would be opt-in until they come and say, hey, you can't go to school without this. Because listen, my experience in Newtown was that you couldn't get in without that. Think about this. All the children have to go back to school at some point in time, right? And they already said that these vaccines now, they're not going to be giving them to children. But what stops them from saying that as parents, we had to present our immunization card or prove that we've been vaccinated before our children go out? I saw groceries as well in UK they didn't stop people from coming in, but they had people like asking for data information from them on whether they were vaccinated or not. And basically advising people that, hey, we feel like you're putting us at risk, we want to ask that you don't come back until you're vaccinated, things like that. And then, of course, when the borders open back, I think that having waited this long is going to be close to a year very soon that our border, I thought that was impossible when you think about it, that we could be in a situation where we have no foreign visitors for a year. People coming home and that type of thing, but no tourism, no traffic. You know what I mean? But if we reach this far and the goal is to get people vaccinated by the end of the year, people not going to be able to come in this country without a negative test or two and to proof that they're vaccinated. That's exactly what they're not going to do it. If they wait this long, they might as well wait. And I'm sure that we are not going to be the only country. If PAHO and them saying that we are, and the World Health Organization saying that we are one of the best at handling this, then we will be benchmarked. And other countries going to say, obviously, hey, you can't come here unless you're vaccinated and you walk with your test and stuff. Like I hear Bravo on Blaze and them show this morning. And Bravo was saying he gets tested at least like 50 something times because he traveling and cricket to play and all that, So all that might be a part of the new normal that we're going into. But I just want to do this as an experiment together. Maybe just let me use DuckDuckGo, get some more information on what we're not sure about. Because if you're real sure that you shouldn't get the vaccine, maybe it might be a better source of getting information to see what the next side of the story really looks like. Make sense? So until then, enjoy that. We will talk next week.